So while I was thinking of what my next review should be, the Steam Summer Sale happened. I bought a few indie games that I'd been meaning to play, and after playing one of them in particular, I just knew that I had to make a video on it. I liked it that much. The Sexy Brutale, a game which is, as far as I can tell, not popular enough. More people need to know about this game. I'm not gonna waste any more time, let's just start talking about it. So first things first. What's with that name, the Sexy Brutale? I mean, it's a good name, don't get me wrong. It's definitely unique and very memorable, but I really don't know why the game is called the Sexy Brutale. I mean, I technically do. The mansion that the game takes place in is called the Sexy Brutale, but they never really explain why in the game, so yeah, it's just kind of weird. To be fair, the only reason I'm harping on the name at all is because it's just a little bit awkward when somebody asks me what I'm doing, and I reply with, "Oh, I'm playing a video game," and then they ask me what the game is called, and I have to answer the Sexy Brutale. And in response to that, they look at me like, is that like a pornographic game or something? And of course I say no, and then I go on to explain what the game is actually like, which, I guess I'll say it now, is harder to do than you would think. This is one of those unique games where it's actually kind of hard to nail down the exact genre that it is, making explaining this game to other people without any visuals fairly difficult. It's a murder mystery. Sort of. It's kind of like a point-and-click adventure game, except you walk around. And it also has stealth elements and puzzle elements. It's a very unique game, and I love it for that. This game has you playing as a man named Lafcadio Boone, hope I'm pronouncing that name right, one of the many guests of a masked ball being held at the mysterious casino mansion called the Sexy Brutale. You quickly find out that the staff running this ball are horribly murdering all of the guests one by one, and you're given the power to control time, allowing, or really forcing, you to relive the same day over and over again. Using your power to time travel, you have to spy on people and mess with things behind the scenes in order to save them from their bloody deaths. And I do mean bloody deaths. Some of these murders are as simple as being shot with a rifle, but there are others which are just really messed up. Like, there is some Saw level stuff going on here. I don't want to spoil it all though, so I'm really trying hard to keep my mouth shut. That's how you know you have a great game. I just want to talk about and show off everything, but I'd rather not spoil it and just have you all play the game for yourselves. I said before that this game was like a murder mystery, but that's really kind of selling it short. I mean, you can literally watch all of the murders happen in front of you and know exactly who did it and how. But what you have to do is figure out exactly how to stop it. The game has you walking around the casino mansion, learning everyone's different schedules. As you observe the people, their daily routines will be traced into this map in the pause menu, which you can then scrub through to see exactly where people will be at what exact times. This feature is great, like really cool. It's honestly something that I wish Majora's Mask had, but I'm getting off topic. You can peep through most doors to peek into other rooms, as well as hide in closets and dressers, and listen into your surroundings in order to avoid being caught. The people you're observing and trying to save are actually nice, kind people. Honestly, they're all very lovable and memorable characters, so they're obviously not out to kill you. But the masks they're wearing are. If you're seen by somebody else, they'll freeze in place, and then the mask on their face will magically fly off of them and then try to kill you. So you have to travel through this mansion without anyone seeing you at all. So, quite obviously, there's something out of the ordinary going on in this mansion. The system in place for spying on people is very well thought out. You can look into rooms and listen in on conversations, but your view of the room is limited, since you're just looking through a small peephole in the door. So, depending on which door you're using to look into a room, you might not be able to see the entire room. This comes into play a number of times, and it always seemed super clever to me. Like, there are times where you'll be listening in on a conversation between two people, but you won't be able to see one of them until later on when you look through from a different door. It's very clever. And there are times where people will be whispering, meaning that you have to go get a new ability in order to hear those words. Or some music will be playing in a room, meaning that you can't hear anything at all. So then you have to go back in time and then come back to that same room earlier in the day in order to turn off the music so you can hear them later. I'm just listing off some random examples, but the whole game is filled with stuff like this. Not to mention that merely exploring this mansion is super fun. There's so much to find and examine, secrets to uncover, doors to unlock, vases to smash, as well as the mere fact that it all looks great. And I guess this leads me to my next topic of interest, the visuals. The graphics in this game are stunning. This game looks amazing. I love the art style. I love how atmospheric the areas and set pieces are. You really do get sucked into this world and immersed into what's happening around you. And I love the art style for the characters. They all look very chibi-like. Reminds me a lot of the character designs in The Wonderful 101, which, by the way, is another criminally underrated game. And the music. I mean, the graphics are already great on their own, but honestly, this game is one of the best games I've ever played, in my opinion, to show how important music is to a game. I don't think over half of the stuff that happens in this game would be nearly as impactful without this amazing soundtrack. Music cues punctuate deaths beautifully, sometimes creating feelings of dread and horror, and other times just making things seem even more sick, twisted, and straight up sad than they already were. And one thing I adored in this game is that you can hear/see pretty much every murder happening throughout the game, even if it's before you've gotten to that point in the game. What I mean by this is that, well, here are two examples. So, since you time travel back in time every time you save someone, they still end up dying while you're saving the other people. The gunshot that kills the very first character from the very beginning of the game can be heard throughout the rest of the game, at the same time every day, since everything is on a schedule. Hell, some of the characters actually comment on the gunshot when they hear it. And then there's this. At 10 o'clock each day, the lights in the entire mansion flicker off for a second. And then later on in the game, you discover that the reason this happens is that someone has a little accident involving a lot of electricity and death. So on top of the music building up to each murder beautifully on its own, pretty much every death in the game can be heard in the background as you play, all blended together into the music. It really does help add to the dread and atmosphere of this place. It just sounds great. And that's what I was saying. The music adds just as much flavor and emotion to this game as the graphics and gameplay, on top of just being really great music. And I mean, it's really good. Hell, there's even a musical number in this game. Like an actual musical number with singing. Actually, there's multiple of them. This game is incredible! Sadly, as far as I can tell, the soundtrack for this game is only available to own through the collector's edition for the PS4. But if they ever decide to sell it on its own, you can bet your ass I'll be buying it. So I've applauded this game plenty, but what about constructive criticism? Is there anything wrong with the game? Well, there's not much, aside from a few minor performance hiccups here and there. Occasionally, the game stutters just a bit while loading up a room and stuff like that. The game is also a bit on the short side. It took me about 6 hours to beat it myself, but I could see some other people possibly finishing it within about 5, depending on how much time they spend finding secrets. But if I'm being honest, I still think that the quality of the game outshines the shorter length. And also, personally, I actually really loved that it was a short game. There are so many games available right now to play, so many, and new games come out every day. It can honestly be pretty overwhelming. So I actually welcome games like this with open arms. Short, finite experiences that I will never forget. I do think that the game could have been a bit more difficult though. I mean, the length of the game is one thing, but if it were a bit harder, then it also would have been a bit longer. So, yeah, I guess there's that. It's not like the game is entirely a cakewalk, but there were definitely a couple of parts where I saved somebody and then thought to myself, oh, that's it? Okay, I thought there'd be more, but whatever. And also, this is an actual problem. It takes way too long to die. Like, you can just run through a room with an enemy in it, and you'll be perfectly fine. You'd have to stand there for some time for the mask to drain all of your life away. But once again, I really don't want to make it sound like this game was so easy that it was boring. Even during the easiest parts of this game, I still felt like I had to try. I just think that a couple of spots could have been a bit harder, and the enemies should definitely kill you a bit faster. This is one of those games that I'm having trouble even nitpicking, which is, I mean, that's a really good problem to have, so I am not complaining. What else is there really to say? The visuals are great, the music is amazing, the gameplay is novel and fun as hell. There are many creative and fun ideas used in this game. Creative is probably the best word that can be used to describe it. And the story is great. Without spoiling anything, just expect a fun, mysterious murder mystery with a very satisfying and emotional ending. The game is available for the PS4, Xbox One, and it's on Steam. Get it. Buy this game. Just do it. Even if you're on a strict budget, at least put it on your wish list. The Sexy Brutale is an extremely beautiful, creative, memorable, and very well thought out game. Maybe I should do more of these positive reviews, at least on games that I really enjoy a lot. Although, I mean, I'm gonna be playing Superman 64 within like 4 or 5 episodes, so never mind, I guess.
A dark room with nothing but a smile, and no matter what life threw at us, I felt